Welcome, everybody. We're going to just take 2 more minutes and let people sign on. Again, all these are recorded on YouTube. Last week was on YouTube. We're going to be coming to you live every week just to encourage those that are doing church from home, serving out in the community. You know, this looks different. The season looks different. And so we're going to bring as many different perspectives as we can to encourage each other during this time. So excited to have Pastor Andrew Mason, former executive pastor at Real Life Church, probably had the groups at the optimum level when he was here. And so we've been sputtering ever since, but really appreciate the deposit that he left because I took advantage of everything that he kind of laid the foundation for. And so really appreciative of that. He is now the executive pastor of discipleship at Emmanuel Christian Center. And I'm just going to ask you, Pastor Andrew, thanks for being with us. Hey, give us an update on the fam. We know that, some of us that know, that you've added to the family. You've had extra additions since the last time we've seen you. But just give us a little update on the fam.
Absolutely. First off, I want to thank you for having me on, and it's good to be here. And I need to say something, Pastor Dean, it's really original. It's really news breaking. I want to be like the 5,000th person to congratulate you and Amy on your son getting drafted into the NFL. And so I miss my RLC family. I miss my staff teammates. So I didn't get to have that moment with you guys. So I was over here. I kind of got caught up in the moment. I got a little too excited. I was watching the draft that night in my Corona quarantine, that night. But we're on Central Time, and all the experts, had Josiah projected into later rounds.
Yes.
And so it was like 11 o'clock. So I was like, I'm going to call it a night. And I was just heading into my bedroom, and I had told some of my friends, I got a friend whose son's going to get drafted. And so some of them texted me like, Degora just went. I was like, what? And so I went online. I saw all you guys in Sacramento celebrating, and I was like, this is awesome. And then it was the Packers. Packers. I can drive to Packer games. I went to one 2 years ago, took my photo with the Lombardi statue, had cheese curds in the stadium restaurant, and did the museum and the pro shop and watched. I'm
Dude,
like,
you've got more than I have because it's all closed right now.
Oh, it's amazing. So I was so excited. So I go on Facebook. I'm like, congrats, Josiah. Welcome to the Midwest. And I posted it. And then I'm like, he's been playing at the University of Cincinnati for like 4 or 5 years. He's been in the Midwest already, Andrew. What are you talking about? So welcome back to the Midwest is probably more appropriate. But man.
To the North.
Yes. So excited for you guys. And thanks for having me on. And yes, in January, we added to our family of 3. Camille gave birth to Judah Gabriel Mason, and he's a tank already. He's already wearing 12-month-old clothes, at about 6-7 months. He's already a tank, and so he's a great addition. We got 3 boys in the family, and I pray for my wife. She is surrounded. She's surrounded, and then Kyler's 8 years old, going to the 3rd grade. Levi just cut his own hair, so messed up his haircut. So we're just having fun. They're keeping us busy, keeping us young.
Well, thanks for joining us. I do have to say, it was actually Josiah's first time today. He had to take 2 COVID tests, and then today was his first day inside the building, and he got inside the locker room today. So they're hoping to start Monday, and so we'll see what happens. But hey, again, thanks for being with us. Hey, this is what tonight's going to look like. Pastor Andrew is going to teach on hospitality, especially as it relates to the COVID season. He's going to lay some theological foundation for us. At any time, just drop your questions in the comments. I'm looking at those as well. And then afterwards, we're going to take some Q&A. There's some questions that I have for him after he teaches for about 20-25 minutes, and then we'll get to your questions. But Pastor Andrew, thanks for being with us. Thanks for being here to encourage and strengthen our leaders. And I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to stay right beside you, but I'm going to go on mute and just take it away.
Oh, thank you, Pastor Dean. Man, church from home training. When I've been, I track what you guys are doing, and I know a while back, Pastor Dean started preaching on church from home. I actually watched that message. That was a great message, Pastor Dean. And then when you talked to me about this church from home training, I was just so excited. This is something that's near and dear to my heart, and excited to share some stuff with you guys. I want to talk to you about hospitality to begin with and lay some theological foundation. Then a little bit later, we're going to get super uber practical, talk about some things for online groups as well. Now, I'm going to do something. I got to put a disclaimer on it. A couple times here, I may reference my website. I have a website that I blog at, smallgroupchurches.com. I promise you, I'm not trying to be self-promoting.
We need resources.
Yeah, I just upgraded, this, Pastor Dean, with your own blog. I upgraded my domain and host for like a couple $100 for another year. So I make no money off this thing. It's just something I started 10 years ago as I had pastors calling me asking for help, and I used it to resource my church and other churches. So, but I did a blog series just before COVID. I wrote about 5 blog articles on rediscovering hospitality. You can find them on the homepage on smallgroupchurches.com. So I'm going to kind of give you a shortened version. Obviously, I won't be able to get through all that content, but if you like some of this, just feel free to check that out. It's all free content there. But as we talk about church from home, a big thing that we're talking about is biblical hospitality. And Merriam-Webster defines hospitable as being given to generous and cordial reception of guests. And this is a word that has a broad spectrum of application in our culture today, because we have a whole hospitality industry that's for profit, and so there's hotels and restaurants, but it's a little bit different than biblical hospitality, because they're willing to be hospitable to you as long as you got some cash and a credit card, right? And that's okay. And then even in our church world, we can have hospitality committees to welcome people into our Sunday corporate gatherings, and those are not only appropriate expressions of hospitality that God blesses, but they're foundational to building a culture of warmth and friendliness and trust in your corporate church services. So we need hospitality in our Sunday services. However, when you dig into biblical hospitality, there's a frame of reference for that practice, that it creates this unique scriptural culture to the word. And it brings a distinction to it compared to kind of the way we use it in our modern culture. And so I want to just share 3 passages with you. I'll reference some others, but I'll really focus on 3, and then just give you a couple takeaway points here. And I believe this is just going to bless you and sow some seed that's going to bring a harvest in your life. So Romans 12:13, the New Living Translation, it says this: when God's people are in need, be ready to help them, and always be eager to practice hospitality. Always be eager to practice hospitality. Now, this verse is from the Apostle Paul. He's speaking to all Christian believers. And I could show you the Apostle Peter doing this in 1 Peter 4:8 and 9. And I could show you the writer of Hebrews doing this in Hebrews 13:1 and 2 as well. Time would fail me to cover that. But this context is presenting hospitality as a practical expression associated with Paul's theme of loving and honoring each other. So hospitality here is associated with love and honor. Matthew Henry made a commentary on this verse that Romans 12:13 was given to those who have houses or residences of their own. And John Piper, he actually is local here in Minneapolis. He writes about this passage. He says, literally, it says, pursue hospitality, pursue. And he says that the verb implies a continuous action. So the command, and I'm just reading John Piper's words here, it's that hospitality not just be a once a year thing at Thanksgiving or Christmas, but a constant attitude and practice, that our homes and apartments should stand constantly ready for strategic hospitality, a readiness to welcome people who don't ordinarily live there. That's John Piper. That's good stuff right there. So in the New Testament, I could spend more time showing you this, but you're just going to have to trust me for time's sake. But I got all the articles online where you could read it and break it down. New Testament hospitality is a baseline standard for all Christians. It was a New Testament emphasis by church leaders, and it was associated with a believer's home. it was associated with the believer's home. So I came up with this working definition for us. This is just my working definition after studying this out. And this is how I would define biblical hospitality. All right. Biblical hospitality is a readiness to welcome people into our home who don't ordinarily live there. All right, let me say this again. Biblical hospitality is a readiness to welcome people into our home who don't ordinarily live there. There was a great guy, he wrote a book about refrigerator rights. And he talked about who has refrigerator rights in your house. Refrigerator rights referring to people who can go into your fridge without asking permission. You know, who do you know outside of your family that can come into your house and open up your fridge without asking permission? And that's a sign of people who you're expressing hospitality to. This is a powerful New Testament thought. The second passage I want to point you to, then beyond that passage in Romans, is a passage in John 14, verse 2 and 3. These are the words of Jesus. Now catch this. He says, "There is more than enough room in my Father's home. If this were not so, would I have told you that I'm going to prepare a place for you? When everything is ready, I will come and get you so that you will always be with me where I am." So remember, these are a portion of Jesus's last words with his disciples before he was going to be crucified. And so he's speaking of his role as a forerunner that's going to go before them into heaven and prepare the way for their own eventual entrance. And he's anchoring their context of eternity. I mean, how do you explain eternity to someone? Think about it. If I ask you, what is eternity like? How would you begin to express this and describe this to someone? An idea, heaven, being in a place of eternal bliss. How would you describe this to someone? We would be at a loss for words. But Jesus, he anchors this context of eternity with the metaphor of a home. Not just any home, his Father's home. His Father's home in heaven. And he explains that he's going to arrange accommodations for his disciples, which extends to all of us, all believers, in his Father's house. So Jesus, the Son of God, he's giving us a divine revelation about the nature of heaven. It's a sneak peek. It's insider information. It's a description of a place we've never been to or experienced. And what he's saying is that heaven is basically a divine offering of God the Father's eternal hospitality. That for all of eternity, God is offering to share with us his glorious residence as our own resting place. In heaven, God's going to open up his home to us. And so this is one of the reasons why hospitality is so powerful, because every time you demonstrate an act of hospitality, you release a measure of heaven down to earth. Every time you welcome someone into your home who doesn't ordinarily live there, you're giving that person a taste of what God the Father wants to do for their soul in heaven. And so this is why God blesses hospitality, because you're literally bringing heaven down to earth. Now, in one of the blog articles in that series, I won't cover it all, but I share 7 different degrees or 7 different dimensions of hospitality. So obviously there's a context that's happening here at Real Life Church, of this idea of church in the home. And it's amazing. And that's a powerful demonstration of hospitality. But if you're not ready for that, there's other ways you can begin to practice hospitality. I mean, you could have someone over for dinner, you could I just say, man, if you're just overwhelmed by the thought of having someone in your home, just set aside a spot in your home to God and say, God, if someone I know needs to stay here, this is a spot I'm setting aside for hospitality. Even if all you got is a couch, say, Lord, this couch is available. If a loved one, someone I know, needs a place to stay, this is my spot of hospitality. You might have a guest room. I was just starting with saying, hey, this is an area I have set aside for hospitality in my own residence. That's a step towards growing in hospitality. So the last part I want to share with you, the last scripture passage, and then I want to give you some takeaway thoughts here. Hope you guys are enjoying this, is the origins of hospitality, the origins of hospitality. I could take you through the New Testament. I could show you a list of places where Jesus did miracles in homes. And hospitality was the context for Jesus doing a miracle. I have that in one of the articles online. And the Holy Spirit was poured out in the upper room, and all the different miracles that happen in Acts in homes. And all these things happen because someone was willing to be hospitable. That's why heaven moved in those situations. But the origins, it goes back to the part of the message from God to Moses on Mount Sinai that Moses was instructed to repeat to the children of Israel. And it's specifically found in Leviticus 19:34 and 35. Leviticus 19:34 and 35. And it says this: the stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one born among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You shall do no injustice in judgment, in measurement of length, weight, or volume. Okay? So this is the Pentateuch. This is part of the Levitical code here. It's in Old Testament commentators say that stranger, it includes traveling Jews, traveling Samaritans, proselytes, but not always idolaters necessarily, which is interesting. These are what commentators say, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But they were to treat such a one as they would a person in their own family. Now remember, in the New Testament church, we're the household of God. We talk about being a part of God's house, but it's really the household of God. We're spiritual family together in Christ. And so this command was to treat a stranger as you would someone in your own family, which included the practice of opening up your home for food, entertainment, and lodging, if necessary, lodging, which is hospitality. This was the proper way to demonstrate love to a person. Now, if you're hanging with me, this God-centered motivation for this good deed, it was rooted in Israel's history of being strangers in the land of Egypt, which is a fascinating context for this concept of hospitality, because their experience in Egypt actually gave them a positive lesson on hospitality and a negative lesson on hospitality. Remember the reason why they ended up in Egypt, it was because of a 7-year worldwide famine. And within the first 2 years of this famine, Israel was being, the 12 tribes there, they were being crippled with poverty and hunger. And if something didn't change, they were going to get wiped out by the end of the 7 years. So insert into the story Joseph being reunited and reconciled to his brothers. This leads to an invitation from Pharaoh. And this was their positive lesson on hospitality, is that Egypt, the most powerful nation on the face of the earth, welcomed them with open arms and generosity, and gave them their own land, gave them their own supplies and homes. And they went from being in lack to instant abundance. In fact, there's a great documentary. I don't have this in my notes. There's a great documentary right now. It's on Right Now Media, and the name is slipping my mind right now. But they actually believe they know where they found the place where they stayed. I believe it's a town, this ancient town called Avaris in Egypt. And they're actually, archaeology is proving out, they think they found Joseph's tomb. Anyways, but they were gifted their own land as strangers in a new nation. Unfortunately, that didn't last forever. And this led to their negative lesson on hospitality. As they grew in number and as they worshiped their own God, as they raised livestock, which that was despised by Egyptians. To put it plainly, all these things, it made them different. It made them different. And that difference was being interpreted as a threat to an extremely insecure leader. People actually believe there was a revolt that happened earlier from another group of people, and that this is all going in archaeology, and that they were afraid Israel was going to do the same thing, that the Hebrews were going to do the same thing. So they were still kind of strangers in the land, they were made to be slaves, and they were treated very unfairly. They were harsh restrictions on them, slave labor, 400 years of oppression. And what happened was God actually, that wasn't his will, because we live in a fallen world, but God used this twofold experience as the anchor for being hospitable towards foreigners. That their experience of both salvation and abuse were two contrasting approaches to a stranger. How do we treat a stranger? And this was a personal experience, celebration versus suspicion. And if we're going to have church from home, we got to be ready to celebrate people. And this is what bringing people into the home, this is the culture that it creates. So there's 4 quick lessons here as I'm wrapping this part up. There's 4 lessons I see when we look at the origins of hospitality. The first thing we see is hospitality is cultivated from blessing and pain. Israel knew what it meant to be treated kindly as a stranger, and they knew what it meant to be rejected through fear and prejudice. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like an outsider in a life situation? Have you ever been the new person? I have definitely had that experience, moving across the country. It's not easy. It can be difficult. It can be uncertain in the wrong. You can have a lot of uncertainty in the wrong conditions. And like the children of Israel, sometimes it takes experiencing a lack of hospitality to really appreciate the value of it. And then notice that verse there that we read in Leviticus 19:35, it speaks to not cheating a foreigner or taking advantage of their ignorance as to local customs. So part of loving a stranger, part of being hospitable to a stranger is not abusing their ignorance in being a new person. But they were to be welcomed. They were to be welcomed. And this is a way that they would experience a measure of the grace of God. The second lesson is this: hospitality brings purpose to prosperity. Hospitality brings purpose to prosperity. This was given. Now, I want you to think about this. God's giving a command to be hospitable here in Leviticus 19. This was given 40 years before they would enter the promised land. 40 years. God was telling a generation of Hebrews how to use personal property that would never actually possess personal property. So the fact that this instruction was completely irrelevant at the time of delivery, it reveals a priority and an emphasis from the Lord. So the younger generation who were given permission to enter the promised land, they heard this verse their whole life. They studied it, they discussed it, they chewed on it for decades. And by the time they finally got their own residence, by the time the Joshua generation moved into their home, they had crystal clarity on one of the purposes for that provision, which was to show hospitality to others. The third lesson is that hospitality demonstrates God's love. You shall love him, it says. And so sometimes the meaning of loving someone, it can be a subjective exercise, like, what is the minimum requirement that I have to do in this situation, Lord? Or is this situation asking too much of myself? This can cause us to hesitate or put ourselves in an overwhelming circumstance. Remember this: Jesus told us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So we need to exercise discernment with each situation. If you have a red flag about someone, maybe you don't feel comfortable inviting them into your home. When I was a single man, there was people I'd welcome into my home that maybe I couldn't welcome in now. Because I do have 3 young children and a wife. And so you still got to use discernment. But most of the time, God stretches me to be hospitable to those that I don't know with unconditional love. And the fourth lesson is this. So hospitality is cultivated from a blessing, from a place of blessing and pain. It brings purpose to prosperity. It demonstrates God's love. And hospitality is foundational to the golden rule. He says, you shall love him as yourself. The golden rule, right? This is the universal law of reciprocity. You can see in all religions. It's first introduced in the Bible here in Leviticus 19, verse 18 and 34. And Jesus echoes its importance in Matthew 7:12. Do to others what you would like them to do to you. This is the essence of all that is taught in the law and prophets. He says in Matthew 6:31, do to others as you would like them to do to you. And so Leviticus 19, it aims the crosshairs of the golden rule on our neighbor and the stranger, which means that biblical hospitality, it makes up half of the Levitical formula for the golden rule as it's introduced to us, which is a powerful thought. So what this does is this speaks to our own human design, our own human needs. Wouldn't each of us, don't we all prefer to be celebrated with hospitality versus being marginalized as a suspicious stranger? Isn't that something we all prefer? Experiencing hospitality makes us feel loved by others, and understanding this for ourselves should be a catalyst for us to be a vessel to others in the same way. So my whole adult life and my whole married life, I've always opened up my residence for ministry, for others. Sometimes it's just fellowship. Sometimes it's Bible study. I housed 2 young boys who were going through a tough family situation for 6 months to help get their family through a tough spot. My whole life, this is something that I've always seen God bless it. And I've always seen God bless the atmosphere of our home. And especially with this concept of church from home. And obviously we do small groups all the time. And I love that lingering sense when the group has left and we've broken bread and we've laughed and we've discussed the word and we've prayed and we've worshiped and we've prayed for each other, and the presence of God is just lingering in my empty house. But it's not empty. It's full of the presence and love of God. So this has been something that's been a part of my life for a long time, and just getting these concepts in us. This was also a mechanism for the New Testament church to develop leadership. I have a whole article on that, rediscovering hospitality in leadership, and how they would use this to develop church leaders in the New Testament. This concept of hospitality. So I hope some of that's valuable. And I hope that's some life-giving principles there for you guys.
So good, Pastor Andrew, and thanks for taking us to the book of Leviticus. I mean, can we just give it up, Pastor Andrew, for teaching out of the book of Leviticus? Thank you so much. Hey, one of the things about hospitality, the question that came to my mind, especially in this season, how do we pursue hospitality? Obviously, we've got to take risks, but I love that whole concept of what you said. When we engage in hospitality, we're actually inviting heaven to invade our home. I mean, that's powerful. But and you can use some of the practical things maybe you're experiencing among at your church, but in this season where, you know, we have some folks that have opened up their homes to a few folks, you know, others aren't quite ready. What are some of the things you guys are doing to pursue hospitality in this season?
Well, we're definitely emphasizing it, you know, and obviously church from home has become a primary pathway for everybody. You know, people are watching the streaming services from houses. And so it's a great gathering place. It's a great point of connection because we can't do the corporate gathering. And don't get me wrong, I love the corporate gathering. We need both. We need the Church of Jerusalem. It was temple courts and house to house. We need both. But right now we're having some issues getting in the temple courts. And so
Isn't it interesting? I stop you just a second.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting, like how it's, you know, you need both, right? You need the temple courts, you need the house to house. And we've been fighting for house to house for a long time, you know, the body of Christ, you know, and here it is. We have the opportunity like never before to develop the small group wing or the church from home wing like never before. But sorry, I just had to jump on that.
No, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, you know, once the church moved out of Jerusalem, there was no church buildings for the first 300 years. You know, it was all house to house, you know, and then they started building the church buildings. The government, you know, of Rome started building church buildings. But for a long time, the church, it was just house to house. And so part of it is activating. I mean, the people who've been doing this, the group hosts, group leaders, it's just a turnkey for them. It just becomes more primary. It's more activating new people to say, hey, this is part of church life. And it runs counter to our culture. We're going to live in a very individualistic culture. We're very comfortable with our privacy. I get it. I'm an introvert. I'd be the first. I love driving home and open up the garage door and walking in the home and closing the garage door. Maybe I'll wave to my neighbors. That's my comfort zone. And so there was a process for me, you know, of opening up my home and letting people into my private life. But when they see the pictures on the wall, when they see me interact with my wife, when they see me interact with my kids, the relationships, it's like 3 months of church services as far as building relationships. You know, it's so much faster because they get to see who I am. And it, you know, your guards just drop more when you're sitting in a couch or you're breaking bread than when you're in different environments. Activating new people to say, hey, just take a step of faith, jump out here and watch what God does.
I love that principle that you shared, and maybe you could expand on a little bit, because I think it's a great place to start. You know, not everybody is, you know, excited about the idea of coming in their space right away.
Yeah.
I like how you said, you know, whether it's a couch or just an area of your house that you could welcome a stranger into. it sounds like obviously you've been practicing this a long time. Did it
Yeah.
for you, did it just start out like, Lord, if anybody needs this couch, and then it grew to, Lord, if anybody needs this spare bedroom? I love that
Yeah.
principle.
It started out as a youth pastor inviting my leaders over Friday nights, and again, it helps not having a family to do that, like, hey, let's come over, let's play some, let's fellowship, let's play some card games, let's watch a movie. And so we had a lot of young adult leaders. And so we would just have them over. And then there was that family that I needed to help out. And we literally gave them, their living room was their bedroom. My living room in a 2-bedroom apartment was their bedroom. And then it turned into groups. So again, I have this article where I list these 7 different ways. Like, you've never opened up your home before, then just take some baby steps. One baby step. If you know anybody from the church, invite them over for dinner. Just invite them over for, like, man, I'm not ready to do church from home. Just invite some people over for dinner. Ask them how they're doing. If you feel comfortable, say, hey, could we just have a quick prayer time? Could we just pray for each other? Just pray a prayer of blessing. That's hospitality. Get the muscles exercising, and just get your toe in the water, and then watch what God does. God does from there.
That's good. How do we get? Well, we talked a little bit about that, but how do we get ready? And maybe you could share a little bit. What are some of the things that your groups are still doing? Because we're so focused on what we can't do,
right?
In this moment, like, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things we can do, or that you guys are doing that? And I always encourage people this way: hey, you're going to have to take a little bit of a risk if you're wanting to do something. But what are some of the things that you're finding out that we can do in this season?
Absolutely. And obviously we're doing, the church from home. We're going to talk about online groups in a little bit. But the other thing, I think of this concept of COVID restrictions versus being an essential service. And one of the things, I love the fact that the church is an essential service in this season. And so we've really found serving opportunities in this season. Because people want to get out, people want to do stuff. I know different people have different limitations, but I would say the majority of people, they want to do something and they want to be a part of the solution. And so we did COVID care packages when the quarantine was on this really hard lockdown. We were doing COVID care packages that we would put together. People could donate food. We put the box together. We deliver them. People could fill out a form. So we had people serving with that. I called Convoy up, Convoy of Hope. And they came out and brought, one of their big semis, and we did a huge food drive to the community. I mean, we had cars backed up for 1.5 miles coming into our parking lot. We gave away just under 40,000 pounds of food. Just like it was gone in like an hour and a half. It was crazy, but we had people serving, putting together the boxes and the bags and serving. We did a toilet paper drive. We had our supplier, and we had to explain to people, there was a toilet paper shortage. You could only buy so. Did you guys have this dynamic?
Oh yeah.
People couldn't get toilet paper, and there's only so much you could buy. So, but we had to explain this because people thought we had bought all the toilet paper from like the store, and this is why, they're like, oh, this no. We had a corporate supplier. We're we have a 2,700 seat sanctuary. We have 3 campuses. We order a lot of TP. We weren't using it. We had no services. So we could order a bunch. And this is toilet paper that you couldn't get. Cub Foods wasn't, our grocery stores weren't getting them. So we ordered a bunch of toilet paper and we gave away bags of toilet paper. And it was like, what's the spiritual thing going on? It was great. People responded. It went crazy on social media. And then, in all soberness, as we were going through all this, we had the death of George Floyd here in Minneapolis. And one of the byproducts of that, a lot of the looting and rioting happened on this street in Midtown Minneapolis called Lake Street. And we have a sister church down there, AG Sister Church, Christ Church International, Pastor Daryl Geddes. There was just a write-up on it in Influence magazine. But so we began sending teams down there with them, because what happened was that there was food, there was a Target and 2 other food stores that got looted and they got shut down. The public transit got shut down. there was immigrant families that lived down there that don't even have vehicles. And so they had no access to food. And so we started bringing food down there. We've sent teams down there. We've gone down there 2 or 3 times a month since June, doing food drives to the community there, filling up the food bank and distributing it now. And then August 8th, we're doing a Pray on MLK event where we're going to pray on our Martin Luther King Boulevard here, and just stand in solidarity for unity, for healing, for reconciliation. And so that's going to be, so we're fine. What can we do? How can we serve? How can we get out there and not just be like, man, there's a bunch of stuff we can't do.
Since you're on just the opportunities, I do just want to interject in here that this weekend is really the beginning of something I've been really pounding the pavement, trying to build community partnerships, but several things, and I just want to quickly let you know about them. First thing, food pantry 10 to 12. That's ongoing, but that's picking up. This week we need you guys peanut butter and spaghetti sauce. So we filled the pantry last Saturday, but we ran out of spaghetti sauce, peanut butter. So if you want to drop off, if you have a need or know somebody with a need, this is an awesome opportunity to pick up a box, take it to them, or just tell somebody that we have a resource. The second thing, on Saturday, we have a neighborhood cleanup. Somebody in our community reached out to me, saw that we did Love Natomas. Here's the t-shirt, Love Natomas. And we're going to meet in Food Co parking lot on Northgate Boulevard at 10 a.m. on Saturday. If you can give an hour, 2 hours, 10 to 12. And then from there, we're headed to the Capitol steps to pray with Pastor Tamara Bennett and a lot of leaders. She's calling the city to prayer, and that's called Pray With Me SAC. Look for the bright yellow shirts. And then, of course, our first outdoor service, Church at the Barn, we're calling it 10 a.m. on Sunday for those of you that are ready to have an in-person experience. And then lastly, because he said pray MLK, we are doing the same thing here. Nationwide. Park. Our MLK Boulevard is in Oak Park. And so you can actually find out all the information by going to Pray MLK Sacramento on Facebook, and everything is in there. I'll tell you all the details. So I love that opportunity, because what I'm hearing from you is one of the key ways that we can connect in this season is get outside, not just the 4 walls of the church, because that's where we're at right now, but our homes. We can go and connect that way as well.
And I'm going to tell you what, people need hope. And I've seen so much hope. I mean, people are heavy. People are discouraged. I mean, I went into Costco one day. I'm like, this place is depressing. Everyone's got masks on. No one's talking to each other. It's like, but I didn't have it, but I felt it when I walked in there. And I remember we did our food drive when Convoy came in. We did our food drive in our parking lot, and there's people crying, saying thank you, because it releases hope. And so if you haven't served yet, jump in and bring somebody with you. That's what's great about groups. Don't just do it by yourself. Bring in, I've invited my whole, we call them connect groups here. I've invited my whole connect group to pray on MLK, and I already got some people. So it's going to be a great experience for our group that isn't, it's the summertime and people are on different schedules. So we're not able to meet in the home as much, but we're going to be able to go pray on MLK together as a group. And I would just say one cool thing that came out of one other testimony is we were having these, what I would say, these pop-up projects. And I was, I had my go-to people like, hey, we got to do this thing. Like, I remember getting the call Friday morning, we got to get food down to Midtown. It was like, all right, it's not my day off today, but I was really, happy to be able to do something in the midst of what was happening here. And people were complaining. They're like, hey, we keep seeing these posts on Facebook. We want to help serve. And I'm like, so we bought servetwincities.com. We bought it. We're building a website right now. Right now, it just goes to a form. And we've had 230 people sign up that say, I want to be notified about serving opportunities. Some of them don't even go to our church. Like they found out about it, from somebody else. And so now we have a whole list of people that when we have something going on, like tomorrow, we just hit that list, and we have a crew of people that come out, and that's come out of this season. I don't believe all this stuff is God's will, but God uses it for his glory. So
Hey, I want to shift a little bit to the digital experience that we're all, a lot of people are digitally fatigued. I've talked to several people. Our hearts are yearning for that personal connection, and rightly so. And churches are starting to have outdoor services. We're going to have one a month initially, and then we're going to actually be partnering with other churches instead of recreating the wheel. I am feeling the sense that God is wanting to bring churches in Sacramento together. So why recreate an outdoor service when, we could join somebody else's outdoor service and invite and see what happens, But anyway, this digital space, I think Barna came out, one in every three people have just kind of disconnected until, to be, church picks up later, I'll pick up, but
Zoom fatigue.
yeah. And so what are some of the things that you are doing in this season to keep people engaged?
Yeah.
I've actually got a little bit of a second win here. Just whenever I get on these conversations and things, the juices start flowing a little bit. And so
Yeah.
I've experienced a second win. We've been in this 4 months going on 5. Man, help us out, man. People are digital, zoomed out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely here to stay. I think we need to think about groups. I think we need to think about it as an omni-channel. So we need the in-person home groups, and we need the digital groups. We need both. And there's going to be situations that it's really the only option is to go online. A lot of what I have here, I want to give you guys some really practical. We're going to get a little tech geeky here, but a lot of this is going to be for like a group discussion. But I also want to share one quick idea. If you're watching the service online and you have a group, if you haven't done a Facebook watch party yet with your group, it really creates a richness in the service experience. And so what I've done is I have a private Facebook page with everyone in my group on it. And then when our church was streaming live on Facebook, I would create a watch party. And I could just, because I had a Facebook group, I could just invite everybody with one button. It's just, and then we would watch the service together in a Facebook watch party. And people would comment and it would chat. I could see who went to church, who didn't. And there was times where maybe I didn't see someone for a couple of weeks. I'm like, hey, you doing okay? Yo, I'm sorry, I've just been busy. I'm like, okay, cool. But I was able to stay connected and shepherd. And so if you don't have church at home, but you have a group, man, try a Facebook watch party. You guys stream on Facebook, right?
We actually just shifted to it's the
forget
same,
everything I said.
no, same type of interaction.
Okay.
Same type of interaction, but we shifted to the church online, Craig Michelle's. But
nice. Yeah, watching the service with your group.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's a great experience. But I want to give you guys some tips here for if you're doing you guys are doing online groups too as well, right?
Yes, we have several online groups that are happening, and they're still going.
So I want to give you guys real quick, see if we can get through these. I won't spend a lot of time on it. The 15 tips for prepping your online group environment. And so the motive for this is the same motive behind having a clean and welcoming home, which is we want to remove distractions and obstacles to people connecting with each other and with God. So that's what the motive is behind this. Now, I mentioned this in another article I wrote, is that God creates environments first. In the book of Genesis, he created the skies before he created the birds. He created the seas before he created the fish. He created the land before the animals, and he created the garden before he created Adam. So there was an environment there. You can check that. I promise. That's right. So in the physical and digital space, it's the same way. We want to have an environment that invites people. And so there's a few practical tweaks we can make, and it will help people lower their guard, enjoy their time together, and bring them closer to Jesus. So the first one is a really practical. You want to download your software ahead of time. So make sure you and your group download the video conference software ahead of time. And if it's your first meeting as the host, make sure you take some time to test it out and work out all the bugs. But here's what the important part is. If you have a new person if you have a new person joining your group, don't assume they know what to do just because you've been doing your group for a month. Let them know what platform to download. Send them the link if possible. If you don't tell people that, it's like inviting someone to your home group without giving them your address. You know, they're just, there's going to be issues. So that's an easy one. The second one is this, is you want to select the quietest room and location you can find. All right. So far, so good in my house. All right. Yeah. Let's hope this stays that way. But turn,
what's quiet right now. So we're good though.
So turn off anything that makes noise, TV, radio, appliances, silence your cell phone, put pets in a different room, have a place where it's going to be quiet.
I've had a few dogs bark during the Zoom call.
Absolutely.
By the way, I just want to mention before we go to the third one, if you guys do have some questions for Pastor Andrew, just drop them in the comments, and we're gonna do some rapid fire at the end. Yeah. But go for it.
I'm going to hit these fast. These are super practical. This is going to be a blog post tomorrow, by the way, again. So you'll be able to find this on, I wanted to put it up today, but you guys are getting the first peek at it here. So position your camera lens at eye level if possible. So like right now, I'm at eye level with my camera lens because this is a more comfortable angle for group members to see you from. Looking up at someone, you know, it kind of feels unnatural, you know, and it's not good to look at that for an hour. So have a good eye level with your camera if possible. Make sure you're shining for Jesus. Don't sit in a dark room. Have a window in front of you, not behind you. Get as much light onto your face. Natural light actually works best. But if that's not an option, if it's nighttime, purchase and position a light on your face just above or behind your camera. There's affordable ring lights you can buy, like for $20. There's also it's called a Lube Cube Panel Mini. It's like $60. It's like a credit card size thing. So, but just remember this, bright pixels are sharp pixels. Okay. Bright pixels are sharp pixels. So the fifth thing is bind the bad audio demons. Bind them. Most people will tolerate bad camera angles and bad lighting, but people don't like to put up with bad audio. So using a headset, it can eliminate that chance of your computer speakers echoing back to the person who's talking. If you can use a microphone, that'll improve what people hear. Many headsets can come with a small mic, that works too. Many affordable web cameras, they can come with built-in microphones too. So, but make sure never use two devices in the same room and same video conference. If it's like, if you're with your spouse, you know, don't have your computer and your phone, because then you're going to get a reverb at some point. So bind all those bad audio demons. The sixth one there, adjust for two people on one screen. If there's two of you, you want to get a mic. You got to get a mic. That's gonna help. You want to make sure you're both in the light side by side. Don't have someone behind somebody because they're going to be darker. And you can still use computer speakers if that's all you got. If you have AirPods, you could share the AirPods. You could put one in one ear and one in the other person's ear. So a couple ideas there if you got two people on the screen. This is the seventh one. Require everyone in the group to have their camera on. You gotta have your camera on. This is simple participation, you know, expectation. A black screen, it doesn't represent a group member paying attention. You know, when someone has their black screen on, you don't know what they're doing. Where did they go? I mean, I could be making a TikTok video right now and you wouldn't even know it, right? And so when you just see a black screen there, it's just, it doesn't do much for you. Okay, I'll turn myself, I'm back on now. All right. I hope I didn't mess anything up there. So ask everyone to have their screen on. That just makes it a better environment and it's less distracting. You want to have mute discipline. Mute discipline. So encourage everyone at the beginning to mute themselves unless they're talking. And if you're the host, get familiar. There's controls that you can mute anybody at any time. So sometimes people have noise going on or they don't realize they're unmuted. You got to control that thing so it doesn't distract the rest of the group. The ninth thing here is maintain eye contact with the camera lens. I haven't been doing a good job of this because I'm reading notes on a screen. But when you're talking to your group and just sharing from your heart, when you look at the camera, you're making eye contact with them. Then when you're done talking, you can go back to looking at them on the screen. But if you really want to connect with them, look right into your camera lens, and that's how you can make eye contact. Set your Zoom to speaker view. If you have more than 4 people and you're on gallery view, people start to become the size of a stamp. So if you set it to speaker view, that means whoever's talking will then be the featured window on the screen. So that can help you get more body language, more facial expression, better experience. Turn your self view off. Okay, this is number 11. So statistics show you spend 80% of the call looking at yourself. Uh-oh. So stop looking at yourself while others are talking. Pay attention. And you can go into Zoom and actually turn off my video when joining a meeting. Go into the preferences. You can turn off the self view so you can just look at people. Have a plan for 45 to 60 minutes. You know, you can only go so long. And we're kind of starting to bump up against that. But I have a whole article on that about an online small group agenda. Next thing is orchestrate fun. You know, when you're in person in a group, there's a lot of one-on-one little interactions that happen, little jokes, little laughing. A lot of that can't happen in an online group because everything is heard by everybody. So you gotta orchestrate some fun. You gotta have some icebreakers. You could do paper, rock, scissors. You could do a treasure hunt. You could say, hey, first one to come back to your screen with a TP roll, a hand sanitizer, and a face mask gets an Amazon gift certificate. Go. You know, have everyone share their favorite meme. You know, bring your favorite meme to the group. This is the Hall of Fame of memes is this season right now, right? 14, I got 2 more here. You can watch short teachings together on Zoom. So you can share a video. You got a real practical thing. Make sure you click share computer audio. So you hit share and then share computer audio. You can watch a video together. I recommend short videos, 5 minutes or less. You know, a long video, sometimes it can work, but I've done longer videos with Alpha, but for the group setting, I like to use short videos. Last thing is resist the temptation to multitask. I have a bad habit of this. I've done it during this call. I love to reference videos and articles, and then I want to like send them out in real time. So I'm working on this. But if you're doing something other than focusing on your group, you're not paying attention. So keep the main thing the main thing. So there you go. 15 tips. Ooh. It'll be posted on my website soon here, if not the latest tomorrow morning, but 15 tips.
Really quick as we close, because we're at 55 minutes and I want to like stick to that principle you just shared. The last couple minutes, just share your website again, and then your next 2 most favorite resources, and then the current book you're reading. Go. Oh,
smallgroupchurches.com is my website. I have a book right here that I'm actually reading right now, and I was going to show you guys. It's Making Room by Christine Pohl. She's got a study guide too, and this is about recovering hospitality as a Christian tradition. So if you like what we talked about, this will take you even deeper. And then what was your other question? It was a book, my website.
And your top 2 resources, your go-to resources.
Man, there's this blog, this leadership blog, deannagora.com. I don't know if you've seen it.
2 blogs on.
He like disappeared for a couple years, but he's back now online and he's posting some great stuff. So seriously, you got to check that out.
Well, man, hey, we appreciate you taking time. I know it's you're a couple hours ahead of us, so you're probably about to go tuck your boys in. Yeah. And hey, thanks for being with us. I know the church. I'm looking at the comments here, man. The church loved having you, and man, appreciate you and investing in us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Pastor Dean. Love you guys.
All right, man. Have a good night, bro. Good night, you guys. We will see you at one of the events this weekend. Pay attention to the social media, and we'll see you. Love you guys.